Hi everyone, I'm Tony Tonkin and welcome to the Tony Tonkin Show. I have been concerned a little about the lack of conversation that there is around Hamas and how the conversation normally has focused on Israel and what I would consider their genocidal behaviour. But really, what I wanted to do in this particular instance is to have a look at where Hamas sit and what brought us to this point. So today we're unpacking one of the most complex and controversial movements in the Middle East. That is Hamas. We'll look at where it came from, the atrocities it has committed, and how its existence has reshaped not only the Israel-Palestinian conflict, but the entire geopolitical balance across the region. And let me say this up front. Nothing about this story is simple. It's a tale of ideology, occupation, power and pain, one that still echoes across the Middle East today. We see it every day. We see it in all of the news items that we view on the media. Hamas was born in December 1987 during the First Intifada, a Palestinian uprising against Israeli rule. Its roots trace back to the Muslim Brotherhood, a powerful Islamist movement that believed Palestinian liberation must be tied to Islamic values. Its founder, Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, was a charismatic cleric, wheelchair-bound but fiercely devoted to resisting Israeli control. In 1988, Hamas released its infamous charter. It declared that all of historic Palestine, from the river to the sea, a statement we've heard many, many times, was sacred Islamic land, not to be negotiated away. It rejected Israelis' right to exist, condemned peace talks, and called for jihad, that's the holy struggle, to reclaim the land. That founding ideology laid the groundwork for decades of bloodshed, and we all know what that has looked like. While it began as a militant resistant group, Hamas also built hospitals, schools, and welfare programs in Gaza. As a result of all of this, these social services gained them massive popularity among poor Palestinians, people who felt and have felt for many years abandoned by the secular Palestinian Authority. In fact, in 2006, Hamas won a shocking victory in Palestinian elections, a democratic win. Remember, it was a democratic win that quickly turned violent. By 2007, after bloody clashes with Fatah, Hamas took full control of the Gaza Strip. Since then, Gaza has been effectively ruled by Hamas, isolated, blockaded by Israel and Egypt, and locked in a cycle of war, poverty, and despair. So, everybody, this is where the story starts to turn very dark. Hamas's record is drenched in blood, not just as a political actor, but as a militant force that targets civilians. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, Hamas carried out suicide bombings in Israel, on Israel buses, cafes and marketplaces, killing hundreds of civilians. But nothing compares to the horror of October the 7th, 2023. On that day, Hamas launched a massive assault on Israel, crossing the border by land, air and sea. Over 1,200 people were murdered, including families in their homes and young people at a music festival. In that attack, more than 250 hostages were taken back to Gaza, among them women, children and the elderly. There is overwhelming evidence, video, witness accounts and independent investigations of massacres, rape, torture, and mutilation. That day will forever be marked as one of the darkest in Israel's history and one of Hamas's most brutal atrocities. Now, Hamas calls it resistance. The world, and rightfully so, calls it terrorism. Inside Gaza, Hamas has been accused of using its own civilians as human shields, hiding weapons and command centres beneath hospitals, schools and mosques. It fires rockets from residential neighbourhoods, ensuring that every Israeli retaliation brings more Palestinian deaths and more outrage against Israel. It's a cynical, deadly calculation, one that turns ordinary Palestinians into political weapons. We can't state that enough. Ordinary Palestinian citizens into political weapons. The rise of Hamas has reshaped the Middle East. Its patron, Iran, sees Hamas as a part of its so-called axis of resistance, alongside Hezbollah and other militant groups opposed to Israel and Western influence. Now, every flare-up between Israel and Hamas risks drawing in Lebanon, Syria, even Iran, threatening a regional war. Diplomatically, the October 7th attack derailed Saudi-Israel normalisation talks, reigniting old divisions in the Arab world and shifted global politics back towards the Palestinian question. And on the humanitarian side, Gaza lies in ruin. Tens of thousands dead, entire neighbourhoods flattened, hospitals destroyed, water and power systems collapse. It is tragedy on top of tragedy, and the ordinary people of Gaza are paying the highest price. We see that in endless videos of the destruction that now is Gaza. So the question remains, what do we make of Hamas today? It's both a political power and a terrorist organisation, a group that feeds on despair yet deepens it. It claims to fight for Palestinian freedom, but its violence has only brought Gaza more suffering, more isolation, and more destruction. And yet, its rise reflects something deeper. Decades of failed peace efforts, unrelenting occupation by Israel, and a world that too often just simply looked away. The tragedy is that Hamas's brutality has now overshadowed the Palestinian cause itself, turning the dream of statehood into a nightmare of endless war. So before we close, we need to talk about the latest American peace proposal, the plan currently shaping the negotiations, media narratives and hopes or cynicism in the region. Because here's the thing, any peace will be judged not by the words on paper, but by whether it changes power, whether it stops bloodshed, and whether or not it addresses the root cause. So in essence, what is the US plan? In September 2025, President Donald Trump unveiled a 20-point proposal. Some sources say 21, who cares? Jointly with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, aimed at ending the Gaza war and reshaping government in Gaza. So I'm going to just outline for you what are the key elements so that we can be clear about what's to be attained here. Immediate ceasefire, all military operations suspended. Front lines frozen and terms until terms are met. Hostages returned, prisoner exchange. Within 72 hours of acceptance, all living and deceased Israeli hostages to be returned. In parallel, Israel to release a large number of Palestinian prisoners, 250 life sentence inmates and 1,700 others arrested since October the 7th. Demilitarisation, disarmament of Hamas, all Hamas military infrastructure, that is their tunnels, rockets, weapon caches, to be destroyed. Hamas and other factions must relinquish any role in governance or security. International Stability Force, that is the ISF as it's now being called, Transitional Security Oversight, a temporary peacekeeping or international stability force would secure borders, support new policy security forces, supervise demilitarisation, prevent rearmament, and work with Israel and Egypt on security coordination. There is to be a transitional government by technocrats. Gaza to be run initially by apolitical technocrats, Palestinian international experts, under the supervision of a new board of peace chaired by Trump, until the Palestinian Authority or a reformed version can take over. Hamas would have no formal role. Reconstruction and development, massive rebuilding of Gaza, housing, infrastructure, utilities, economic zones, investment incentives, international donors, and an economic development plan are central. And more importantly, I think, this particular point, even though we can contest all the rest, right to stay, freedom of movement, where people in Gaza would be people in Gaza would not be forced to leave. Those who wish to depart could, and they could return if safe. Conditional pathway towards Palestinian self-determination. The proposal is careful not to guarantee an immediate Palestinian state. Instead, the plan suggests that after peace and reform are achieved, a political horizon might open towards Palestinian self-determination. How that will look, no one really knows. Some versions of the plan also envisage amnesty for Hamas members who disarm and comply with the new framework. Now, Netanyahu has publicly backed the plan. Israel acceptance is claimed. President Trump has given Hamas a short deadline to accept the proposal, threatening consequences if the proposal is rejected. I am and always will be concerned about whether this proposal will actually be implemented in full, and whether or not Israel will continue its bombardment of Gaza. It has continued that bombardment even while these negotiations are taking place, a failure of Israel to show goodwill towards this proposal. But this is the cost of hate. Until both sides find a way beyond vengeance, the Middle East will remain trapped in this endless loop of violence and grief. I'm Tony Tonkin. Thanks for watching. Stay informed, stay critical, and as always, you matter, and facts matter.